Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's media availability with Austin FC head coach Josh Wolff. Please allow us just a moment while we give you access to record today's session. In the meantime, please utilize the raise hand function to indicate your desire to ask a question. We'll get started in about 15 to 20 seconds. Thank you.
You're all good.
All right, let's go ahead and begin today's session. Chris Bills with the Striker Texas. Chris, go ahead.
Thanks, Ryan. Hi, Josh. Just wanted to ask you about Jan Kolmanic getting called into World Cup qualifying with Slovenia. And anything you tell me about sort of the logistics around that. Will he be available tomorrow? And just what's it mean to the club to have a guy get called into a senior national team for such a big occasion?
Yeah, no, we're excited for Jean, and no, it's good. It's obviously a reflection of the organization to recruit and bring in players at a young age that have that type of potential, and hopefully we've helped that process for Jean and elevated his level. And we have to work through some of his visa issues, but certainly we full expectation of him getting released, taking part in that match. It's always a great honor to play for your national team, and we expect that to be an exciting opportunity and moment for him. And we fully support it and look forward to watching him as he takes on those games. And he'll be available for tomorrow's game for us.
Okay. And did the upcoming travel, those potential games and stuff like that, did that play any factor in leaving him behind?
No, not for Jean. I think part of Jean's, we've seen him physically, how it affects each one of his games. When he starts, it's tougher for him to turn around and put those minutes in for the next game. And we could have utilized him, but he would have been very limited for this third game. So with altitude, with the quick turnaround, the health of the players is a big part of that. Again, Sunday night, Wednesday, Saturday, I can't say enough. It's not normal. It does happen, but we took the precaution on some of that because of where we are physically with some players and health. That's part of the driver for us, and that had nothing to do with John. It was the idea is obviously his recovery and being fully ready for availability on Saturday as well. Because if we used him on that one, we felt he would be out, and obviously we try to have a little bit of rotation at the back line because we are sensitive certainly with our center backs as well, and that was just part of the decisions.
And he's up for U22 or U22, 22 under 22 for the league as well. As is everybody else on your team that's under that age point. But just as far as his adjustment to the league, to me, he's the guy who I've thought of maybe being first on that list among that age bracket. Would you agree with that? And then how impressed have you been with his sort of ability to adapt to this league?
I think he's a very talented player, and I think he's seen some of the adjustments that are needed to come into MLS. And technically, I think he's an exceptional left back. First touch, ability to pass inside, his service is extremely good. Playing under pressure, decision making very good. Physicality, dealing with dueling, defending in the channel are things that he's going to have to continue to improve. And our league puts you in tough spots. The players and the attackers that we have, the dynamic of the opponent. And that's something that we've talked about a lot with him, embracing that and gaining some of the physicality and certainly also the understanding of the league and your opponent. So I think he's a great student of the game. He has a good ceiling. Playing in our league each and every day, having more competition in his position, I think will also be good for him. That's something that we need to do throughout our squad. But also him just gaining a little more physicality, a little more maturation on that side of things, because he's got great qualities. And to play at an international level, he's going to have to wrap all those things in there, and then he's becomes a more complete player. But we're pleased with his progress. His adjustment to the league has been pretty good. And again, I think he's got a high potential and certainly a great ceiling and future with us.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Mark Turner. Last word on soccer. Mark.
Thanks, Ryan. Hey, coach, have you thawed out yet?
It was nice. It was a nice change of temperature and to feel a different season. But it was that's run all day weather. It was nice, but it's warmer, a little, certainly getting a little cooler here in Austin, but it was nice to see a little change of temperature.
Yeah, that's summer in England, so I'm quite used to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Coach, obviously you had to make some wholesale changes in this last match. It's not the first time we've had to do that this season. Obviously, that's drawn criticism from the fan base. And I'm wondering, as you look back on those instances, those times when you have had to make changes pretty significantly, this last game v Colorado, do you feel that's just part of the learning process for yourself as a coach? Or is there something inherently kind of underlying here that needs to be addressed moving forwards in terms of better understanding player fitness? Perhaps it's something on the medical side of the house. Just want to try and give fans a better understanding of what's going on behind.
Yeah, I think all of that. I think all of that plays a role in it, and certainly my understanding and certainly learning from some of these things. But I'll take this situation in particular, where it's Sunday night, Wednesday, Saturday afternoon. It's a different one than some of the previous ones, and we've already talked about the feedback from some of the others, from fans and certainly media. The idea would be to play our players as much and as often as we can, and that's DPs. Anybody, and obviously there's some safety and some health things that we look into, but looking back on some of the earlier situations, yes, we probably could have ran those guys a little bit more, and some of that depends on travel, some of it depends on how they came out of the game, and certainly you saw changes in the opponent this week, and they also made some decent amount of changes, so it's part of it. And we'll reflect as we have on those moments already, and we're going to face another 3-pack of these games in over the next few weeks. And again, I think we want to utilize our best available players as often as we can to, one, get the result that we feel is on the table, and obviously keeping in mind what the next 2 or 3 games are going to look like. So this one was a more challenging one, again, based on a Sunday night late game, a Wednesday night at altitude, getting back late, and then turning around quick on Saturday. So we'll learn from all of them, whether it's a Saturday, Sunday, or like this one, a Sunday, Saturday. So I'm sure there's some adjustments that I can make and be better equipped for making those decisions. And look, I want all of our best players out there all the time. And, there is some responsibility to ensure we're not endangering them, but the criticism is understood, and we'll all grow from it and be better for it in the long run.
Yeah, and Coach Jared Stroud kind of prickled a little bit in the press conference after the match at the suggestion that the stronger players were missing, and therefore, by definition, the weaker players were out there. And of course, Jared doesn't consider himself to be a weaker player. But whenever you put out players who maybe haven't had as many minutes as others, there's always that question of, did they make the most of that time? Sure. So do you feel like when those players have come in this season, do you feel like they have made the most of that opportunity? They've shown you enough to really be pushing for their starting spots?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. And throughout the year, I think that the introduction of substitutions or new players is one, impactfulness. Are they playing the game in the way that we want to, and in the way that we teach it? Or are they impactful with the minutes that they come in and give? Again, I think you saw Johnny and McKenzie come in the game against LA Galaxy, immediately be impactful. Whether he scored a goal or Johnny's work rate. And the other night, again, Johnny did a decent job against Colorado. We lacked a little bit more personnel between lines, so we were much more vertical, and we had more speed, more verticality on the field, but we didn't have the calm and the players coming down between lines as much as we have. So there was a little bit of a disconnect in that manner, but that was also part of our game plan to get behind them, and the strategy behind it, with our energy and speed, that we could get behind Lalas Abubakar, that we could get behind their center backs. And we did. Unfortunately, we didn't get the red card penalty that probably was deserved, but Johnny also got in behind the 1v1 with the goalie and wasn't able to take advantage of that. So there's strategy in all of this. And I appreciate Jared, being a little bit disappointed or upset about it, because he's been a player that's played minutes, as has Johnny, as Rodney, now McKenzie. So they want to compete. And the more competition we have in our group, the better our entire group is going to be. That's needed as well. I mentioned that earlier, but more competition drives, certainly the blood of the entire group, and certainly of a coach as well. So I appreciate his snickering at that option, or that sidebar.
Cheers, Coach.
Chris, we can go back to you.
Sure. Yeah, Josh, kind of along that line of the Colorado match. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody this morning about how there's been a lot of matches where you can sort of see the plan in action. There were individual mistakes sort of that led to those 2 goals that put you in a bad spot. And, obviously the referee decisions are what they are, but how do you sort of assess when those matches, because they've kind of piled up this year, where there's been matches where, you've been close, right? You've been close to having a good performance, even given personnel and in certain situations. Is that quality? Is that, is that like concentration? Is it, how are you kind of addressing like those little moments that change games, and why other teams are making them and you guys aren't?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think there's some quality. There's our ability to teach. There's execution from the player. I mean, it's a shared responsibility. I mean, the first goal comes needlessly. We win the ball in midfield. We have options to pass out. We get turned over. We have the ability to deal with it in the channel with Johan or with Danny Pereira, and we don't. And, that leaves freedom inside the box. Can we deal with the defending in the penalty box? Can we get on a better height for Alex? And again, as a coach, of course, there's all these things that we can assess and analyze, but that's part of our teaching. And then it's part of the players taking on that responsibility and executing it. And, there's been lots of good performances. There's been some poor performances, and individually we got to look at that. And we always have meetings with the players in various ways, in small groups, big group, and individually, because that's just part of how we onboard them to what we're doing. And it's a process. It's all year. It's all the time. And, I think that's been part of the learning curve for a lot of these players as well. There's been a decent amount of new information and detail. They've taken a lot of that in and applied it in a very good manner, but it's a game of margins, and it really is. And there's been plenty of good games this year where we've been on the wrong side of it, maybe unfairly, and certainly some of them fairly. But when you score goals, it gives you momentum and energy, and when you get scored on, it can obviously adversely affect you. And to give one up at the end of the half and then to give one up at the beginning of the second was obviously it wasn't our best night, but those two things don't help the cause. And again, if we can stay compact and grind and compete, we've shown we can find ways to score goals, and that was going to be part of the idea and the strategy on the night. But it's a bit of everything. We have a shared responsibility. I made a short answer long, but it's players, it's coaches, and obviously, if you sprinkle in a little bit of good luck, bad luck, or fortunes of the ref, it's all of those things.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Chris. Eric Goodman, Austin Chronicle. Eric.
Thanks, Ryan. Hey, Josh. You've talked a lot about you guys talk a lot about the way you want to play. I'm just curious. If I'd asked you that question at the beginning of the season, what way do you want to play versus today? Has any of that changed, or is it still the exact same mindset?
No, I think there's just, when we say the way we want to play, obviously you want to utilize the ball. You want to have good positional play, and certainly have good understanding from the relationships, coordinated movements, coordinated ideas. And I think, again, throughout the year, that from the beginning throughout the year, it grew and it grew quickly because it was all new to all the players. I think, as we got into the latter part of the season, we obviously weren't scoring goals, and we've made much better of that. And that gave us a little bit of confidence. And then along the way, we started taking a lot more goals. So playing the way we want to play is both an offensive and defensive side. So we've seen plenty of growth in both of those, and we've seen some deficiencies now and some gaps in some other ones. And again, we have to evolve with what we have. We have certainly had some injuries, and we've those were pretty early on in the season. We brought in some new players that it'd be nice to have them getting fit, being in our environment, and certainly getting the detail as all the other players did in the first 3-4 months. So in a preseason, that would be good, but I still like the way we play. There's no doubt about it. I think that's a fundamental. We want to have a good tempo. We want to have an offensive orientation to it, and we want to be more defensively responsible and difficult to break down. And we've had moments of that, and obviously, we've had some poor moments of that.
Thanks, Eric. We can go back to Mark Turner. Last word on soccer. Mark.
Hey, Coach. Every team obviously presents you with different challenges. So what do you anticipate RSL are going to throw at you on Saturday? And what can the Austin fans expect in regards to your starting 11?
We'll have a very aggressive starting 11. We'll have a good starting 11 out there as we can get out there. A healthy, fresh, ready to go group on Saturday afternoon. And, I think that's always our goal, is to put out the most effective and prepared 11. And that won't be any different this Saturday. As far as what RSL is there, obviously as Pablo's taken over, you see, a little bit of his personality. They're much more, man orientated, very in your face, a little more high pressing. They take a lot of risks with the way they press up the field, and feel good about being 1v1 in a lot of situations. They have a very good attacking core. Krylak and Rusnak are very talented players. You mix in obviously what Julio, the striker, did, and certainly what Ruben can do for him, and obviously Herrera, Justin Merrim. They play a pretty expansive style when they attack, and again they put a lot of balls in the box, and Krylak is a big part of that. Rusnak's also a big part of that. So we'll have to deal with them in the channels, obviously, to try to deny and prevent some of that service. But defending the penalty box is going to be key. They have 2-3 guys in pretty much all the time. They're one of the highest crossing teams in the league. They also are one of the highest efficiencies as far as getting on the first ball. So our ability to deny or prevent or to challenge those crosses is going to be critical. And then obviously our contact and our defending inside the goal and in front of goal is going to be equally critical. Compactness will be our friend.
So Driussi and Gite both start this weekend then?
We hope we have a very strong lineup out there on the weekend that the fans can appreciate, and we can come home and get 3 points. I would love to share our starting lineup. I mean, I forget one of our reporters was sharing our, certainly the players that travel and don't travel. So we really appreciate that we share that information with everyone. That's a unique way of doing it, but we'll have as good a group out there as we can, Mark.
Okay. Cheers, coach.
Probably those guys will be playing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Let's close today's session with one more question from Eric Goodman. Eric, I see you still have your hand raised.
Yeah. Josh, I don't know if we're going to get another one of these Zooms before the U.S. men's national team play at Q2 against Jamaica. I really enjoyed last time we were talking, and you were talking about how you watch their games, kind of from a coaching perspective. So what are you looking to see in that match? How are you going to be taking in that match? And do you have any advice for fans to beat traffic for the 6:30 start?
Yeah, the traffic will be tough no matter what, but it's always exciting. Again, I'd say whether it's men's team, women's team, to see high level soccer and certainly moments like this where what you're playing for is big rewards, and obviously there's a lot on the line. But I look at these games again. You have an idea of what the opponent's going to be like, but you also want to see how we come out. What's our structure? What's our presentation? And obviously, how do we look to hurt the opponent? Those are the things that we always talk about. How can we be stable, but how can we score goals and hurt the opponent? So, I think unfortunately as a coach, it's less about entertainment. It's more about the education and optically, what am I seeing? What are you trying to digest? So I'll try to enjoy it as much as possible, but being part of these types of games, what the intensity is going to be like. That both teams are competing at a high level, and there's everything to play for, and there's also everything to lose. So they're typically cagey, they're typically physical, and expect Jamaica and all of our opponents in this window. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be a challenging 3 games, and like us, when we're in these 3 games in a week, it's challenging to get the rotation right, to get the structures right, and that's also part of it. It'll be good to talk to Greg before and after it, and but most importantly, it's great to see great opportunity to see our national team play.
Thanks, Josh.
Great.
Any TIFO lifting experience? Can we get you out there on the pulley?
Say that again.
Do you have any TIFO lifting experience? Can we get you out there on the pulley?
I'd love to be over there. If the supporter section will take me in there, I'll come over there and crank away on some TIFOs.
All right, that's a good place to end it. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Coach. We'll send a recording of today's session soon, and we'll